to another Monday night. Welcome to Cliff Notes Live, my favorite part of Mondays. You'd be my favorite part of most days of the week as well, but especially on Mondays. I get so happy coming out here to spend a little bit of time with y'all. I hope you're doing fantastic. Welcome to not just any Monday, the last Monday of September. God, it's going so fast. And the last Monday of Big Brother Season 23. Can y'all believe it? We're at, 82 days? We are almost done with this season. We're going to talk a lot about Big Brother, but if y'all got other questions that aren't related to Big Brother, we can talk about that as well. Damn, look, my face is looking a little blue with this background. Isn't that? No, different. And for those of you who may be curious, I am wearing a shirt. Don't think I'm sitting here. So many people inside the Big Brother house went around all the time not wearing shirts. I did. Well, maybe every once in a while I did that. I never did that. But a little kicker for y'all before we talk about other stuff, and just a little mention to y'all. I haven't even gone in and said hello to all my friends out there, but just a little mention since I'm talking about shirts and all that. Nick from my season never wore shirts in the house, and I found out later one of the reasons he didn't wear shirts is because he figured that way when he got called to the diary room, he wouldn't have to dress up. He wouldn't have to worry about putting on, because sometimes they want you go in, you talk for hours and hours in the diary room, and then couple hours later, they say, hey, Cliff, can you come back in? And it may be that there's something that you said that took 2 minutes and they want you to condense it down into 20 seconds or something. So you have to put on the same clothing and everything else so it all looks the same. So Nick would just never wear a shirt, so he didn't have to worry about any of that. So there you go. Little inside scoop just to start the show off this evening. I hope y'all are all doing well. I got my friends out here. Kathy Hansen, Brian Hoster, Jenny Carter, KDR, Marilyn, Alicia, Anthony, Ma, howdy, Ma. Mark Taylor, Paula Scar, Big Sissy Banana. All right, well, welcome to the show, Big Sissy Banana. Sarah Shaw, Molly, Birdman, Anthony. Did I say Anthony? Howdy, Anthony. And we got all kinds of all my friends. Mark Taylor, Chaz, Josh Cohen, Marthika Nard, Joyce Tucker, and if I missed one or two others, I'm sorry about that. I'm trying. I'm going to try to read the comments. I'm going to try to talk about all the stuff we want to talk about this evening as well. But more importantly, welcome aboard. Welcome to all of y'all who are here live. Again, hit me with the comments. Let me know what y'all want to talk about. For those of you who aren't live, who are watching on replay, thank you as well. I appreciate the support. I absolutely do. If you get a chance, all of y'all out there, please subscribe to this channel because we're almost done with Big Brother, but that doesn't mean that we're through with reality TV. I covered the first episode of Survivor last week. Oh, it's going to be a great season. I'm excited about that. So I covered that, and I'm looking. Amazing Race is I heard it may be starting to film again and everything. Oh, I'm so excited about that. So we'll talk about that. Any other reality show. I may just pick the most oddball. Figure out what reality show y'all look at and say, oh, Cliff Hogg would never watch that reality show. Maybe that's the one I need to start covering just to be a little different, right? I don't know. I'm looking for other things. So if you subscribe, you'll find out whenever I post some oddball video out there talking about some amazing reality show here or there, and be happy to do it. Big Sissy Banana, just subscribe, been watching all season, first time here. Well, Sissy Banana, welcome aboard. I can't hear your name without thinking of, was it 2 seasons ago? I feel like it was with Enzo, maybe their season. So maybe it was last year where they're riding the bananas as one of the HOH competitions. Oh, we had to do crazy stuff at that. It was amazing. I would walk out into those backyards every once in a while and just look at what the setup was. And immediately you're trying to figure out, what do we have to do? Do we have to run back and forth? Do we have to hang on to something? And I'd look at some of these displays and think, what in the world are they going to do? When I walked out and I saw my jet ski competition, which was the veto during my HOH, I looked at that thing, and my first thought was, oh, man, I love jet skis. I ride jet skis all the time. This is going to be fantastic. This is a piece of cake. And then I realized that jet ski's in a swimming pool that's maybe 20 feet by 10 feet. It's not like I'm going to be doing a lot of flips and twists with that jet ski. Well, as it turns out, it was all about taking your clothes off. Who would have thought that while you're sitting on a jet ski, right? I almost missed it. But let me start off the show again by saying, SKD143, I love my wife. I love my kids. Love all of y'all out there. Love all the reality fans out there, watching and not watching, both of them. Thanks to all of y'all for the support. That's so cool talking reality TV with you guys. All right, some other questions as we go along. Kathy Hansen, I heard Ozza and Big D had a big fight. Yes, all right. Let me give a little warning to all of y'all who are either watching on repeat or watching this live. I have tried all season long to make my comments during Cliff Notes Live non-spoiler. If you watch the Big Brother show, but you're not watching the live feeds, you're fine because you're not going to hear spoilers from me as much as possible. I got to tell y'all tonight, there's going to be a few spoilers I throw out there. Little things, not anything huge, but a couple of spoilers because I just don't feel like I can have a conversation about what's been going on if I don't mention a couple of them. So if you truly don't want to hear spoilers, I hate to say don't listen. Maybe I'll try to hold my hand up. So I don't know. Just be warned because I may spoil some things that you don't want to hear spoiled if you truly don't want to hear spoilers. And I apologize in advance, but there's some things I have to mention, I think. All right, so the question. Ozza and Big D, the big fight. Man, they've been fighting for the past few days, right? Ever since Xavier won the first part of the final HOH competition, which was kind of a cool competition, right? Sitting on top of, they kept calling them boats, but you know what they look like to me? They look like bobbers, like when you go fishing. You're watching that bobber to get sucked under the water. That's what it looked like to me. But those three people holding on to those bobbers, holding on to those boats. Big D, he's having a hard time of it, right? That was a little fun watching him do it. Ozza looked like a rock. She was crouched around, holding on so tight. And Xavier, he actually was handling that competition the way I probably would have handled that competition. He was sitting on that thing like he's a bull rider. And I've certainly been in my fair, not been in. I've gone to my share of rodeos. I've done a few mechanical bulls here and there, things like that. But that's the way I probably would have done it, is trying to just stay absolutely centered on top of that rocking boat. And when it shifted left, you go right and vice versa, trying to keep your center of gravity right on top of it, which sounds like a grand plan and piece of cake, right? Until they start spraying all that water and everything on you, and then everything gets slippery, and it would have been a tough competition. But I got to say, I like that competition a lot more than during our season. I was already evicted, but during our season where Mickey and Holly and Nicole had to go through swinging bridges and grab gold coins and jump over a wall and solve a puzzle. Much, much more athletic than this competition, which was a little athletic, but mainly just skills and just keeping your focus and everything else. But anyway, so I'm getting off the tangent from that question that was asked a long time ago about the fight. So Xavier wins round one. We know that he's going to be one of the two competing in finale night to see who gets to go to the final two chair. And then we have Xavier. Then we have Ozza and Big D competing in round two, which we have not seen on TV, so we don't know exactly what the competition is. Something to do with treadmills, maybe, and pictures of house guests, and don't really know beyond that. Except we do know who won. So here you go. Spoiler alert! If you don't want to hear it, close your ears for a few seconds. The winner was Ozza. There you go. Now, here's the beauty about that. The beauty, and it's getting back to the question about the fight. Because Ozza's won, because Xavier's won, that means Big D's out of it. Big D has no more decisions left to make in the house. He has no power whatsoever, which such a big change from the rest of the season, right? Big D was such a powerful, always controlling the action. Yeah, no, not at all. It's same old. But because of that, it means Ozza theoretically has power. She's got to compete against Xavier. If she won the final competition, suddenly she gets to decide, and not Xavier, who she takes to the final two with her, which is very, very interesting because she has continually said it would be Big D, and why wouldn't it be? But Big D's just so worried that she's going to turn around and flip on Xavier. Every time, if you watch a live feeds, you've been seeing Xavier and Ozza cuddling quite a bit, which is making Big D very nervous, right, guys? And he's worried that maybe they're getting too close, that Xavier, if he wins this, that he would take Ozza instead of himself. That if Ozza won it, maybe she would take Xavier instead of Big D. So Big D's getting a little bit nervous. Apparently asking over and over again with Ozza, are you going to take me? Are you going to take me? Hitting around about it. I wish Ozza would just come out and say, here's the thing. Yes, I'm taking you because I know I can beat you because you haven't done anything all season long. Yes, I'm going to take you. You ought to know that you're a complete flop in terms of, I don't want to say that, but you ought to know that I can beat you a lot easier than Xavier. So yes, why are you so worried? I'm going to take you. But she hadn't said that. Yeah, so they fought back and forth. And here's the thing. Final four, final three, people get on each other's nerves so much, especially right now because there's nothing left to do. There's no major strategizing or anything else. It's all about who wins this final competition. And so there's nothing to do except sit in that house and get nervous and paranoid. These three people, within 2 or 3 days, could win $750,000, right? And even if you don't win that, even if you just get second place, you're still $75,000. So huge amount of stress for these people right now. They're locked inside, so I assume they are. I'm sure they're building this down in the backyard. I haven't seen them go out in the backyard, so I think they're locked in. They have got nothing to do except get paranoid and stressed out about everything that is going on in that house, and get paranoid and stressed out about every time you aren't in a room and the other two are in there talking together. Here's what's kind of funny about this season. Normally, when you get to a final three, as soon as everyone's not talking game, they're talking about what are you going to do after this show? It's going to be great to see my family. Whatever you talk about that is not game related. As soon as one person gets up to go to the diary room, gets up to go to the bathroom, or falls asleep, the other two then they can gab, talk, try to figure out commitments, promises, whatever it's going to take to help the two of them advance a little bit further until that person comes back, and then someone else leaves and it starts all over again. These guys, it's as though they don't really care who else is in the room. I watched last night. Big D tells Ozza, and this is kind of what started some of this fight for the question. Ozza asked, and then later Xavier says, all right, Big D, if you'd won HOH, who would you take to the final two? And he said it. He said he'd probably take Xavier because he had to deal with him, which of course makes Ozza upset, gets Ozza mad, and then, so he kind of opens his big mouth. And then Ozza turns around and says, well, I always have said I would take you, and that's what I would do, Big D. And she says that in front of Xavier. Why would you say that? If you think there's any chance that Xavier may drag you along if he wins, why would you go out of your way to say that, nah, I wouldn't take you, I'm taking Big D, and make him just that much less inclined to drag you along if it comes down to it? I don't know. I can't figure out. Listen to this. I'm getting ready to say I can't believe people can't keep their big mouths shut inside the house. It's kind of ironic for me to be saying that, right? Considering I kind of had a little bit too loud of a mouth while I was in the house as well. But hey, hindsight's 20/20, and you learn as you go, right? Lord knows if I went back in that house, I'd be a lot quieter than I used to be. So there you go. All right, couple of questions. Mark Taylor, do the final three pack their clothes before the last show and pick them up after the show? I think so. I'm almost positive that's the case. Now, not having been final three, I can't say beyond any doubt. But if I recall, and the reason I say this is because I'm pretty certain that when they left the house at the end of that show, that was it. They weren't allowed to go back inside at all. I always had kind of thought that, okay, once the show's over, maybe they'll let us just go back in and take pictures, or at least just kind of have one last little run around the house or something, run up those stairs. Nah, they wouldn't let me in. They wouldn't let anyone else in. Once you're out, once Nicole got booted in third place, she's done. Once Holly and Mickey walk out that door to the confetti and see Julie and all, they're done. No one went back into the house. So I think based on that, probably here about now, maybe tomorrow, everyone's luggage, the final three, their luggage will show up in the storage room. They'll be told to pack up everything that they want to take out with them, their clothing. They'll put it back in the storage room, and production will sneak in whenever the storage room's locked up, take those suitcases, and they'll have it all ready to go once they're through with the season itself. So yeah, I think they have to have everything packed ahead of time, and they don't see it again at that point. All right, Anthony Stike, do you think the ring incident is equal to Ian's collecting collateral? Well, let me go back and read. I can't read what that says. Collecting collateral from Dan. Oh, sorry. I'll go. I'd rather go back and try to find a comment. I was trying to remember what I had on it. Here's the thing with that ring collecting. I don't have a huge issue with it. If Big D is going to give a ring to someone and say, "Here you go. If I vote you out of the house, then here's my ring and it's yours." If you're going to make that commitment, then you face the consequences. When I was in the house, when I was HOH, or no, not when I was HOH, when Jessica was HOH, and I really wanted Jack out of the house. And there was some question about who would vote for who. Did we have the votes to get Jack out? Would I potentially flip and vote Mickey out or something? And I told Jessica and Kat and Nicole up in the HOH room, I said, all right, here's my Aggie ring. What my second most favored ring, obviously wedding ring number one, Aggie ring number two. I said, here's my Aggie ring. I'll give it to you if you want. If I don't vote Jack out, then y'all feel free to keep this ring because I'm just telling you I'm going to do it. Well, I'm not going to lose my ring. I wouldn't have made that promise if I wasn't really convinced I wanted to do that. Fortunately, they didn't take me up on the offer. Unfortunately, I didn't have to flip anyway. I voted him out. But no, if Big D made that promise, if he gave his ring to Kylan, then if I'm Kylan, I'm walking out that door with that ring, and I'm probably waving it around saying, thanks, Big D, I appreciate it. Now, after I got out, the season was over, all the strategies over, everyone has hugged and said, oh, congrats or sorry or whatever. Eventually, I'd give him the ring back. I'd maybe make him do something stupid on social media or something just for the fun of it, some little prank or something. But no, I'd give him the ring back. But I have no problem with Big D taking it in the first place. He offered it. It's part of the game, right? Yeah, you make your promises. You give stuff out. It is what it is. All right, Josh Cohen. That final competition is literally anybody's game. If Ozza wins, X's game is done. I know. Isn't that something? I mean, we sit here and we assume that Xavier's going to win the final round. But Ozza, she's won some. I mean, she's fine in terms of mental stuff. You watch her doing all that mental memorization with her Fruit Loops and everything she's got, or tricks or whatever it is, the cereals she's got next to her bed. She's like a little human computer sometimes in terms of how she's got that stuff set up. So yeah, I certainly, and normally that very last competition, sometimes there can be a little athleticism, but for the most part, and really I think every season pretty much, I'm trying to remember all of them, it's questions and answers. I remember Paul and Josh on the scales, and then during my season, Mickey and Holly are answering true-false questions about the memory walls. It'll be days and events. It'll be the memory wall. It'll be pictures. Something to do with their experience in the house is fairly typical for that final competition. So yeah, Ozza could win it. I've said before, I've said on my little morning recaps that I do every morning, I really think Xavier is either going to win or he's coming in third place. I think second place is going to be Big D no matter what. So yeah, you could have a final two of Ozza and Big D. Wouldn't that be something? I just picture the jury when they say, let's see who comes out in third place. Let's meet the final member of the jury. Xavier comes walking out the door, probably with a bit of a bitter grin on his face, a bitter, sad smile, sad look on his face, right? Grimace. Julie says, welcome to our final two, Ozza and Big D. I hope they don't have the microphones too close to the jury. They could probably be on the other side of the room, and you'll still hear the groan from all the jurors. That would be fun, just to make for a very interesting, exciting final two. Do I think the two of them deserve it? No, I think Xavier deserves it more. But I can't say I wouldn't laugh a little bit if I saw those two as the final two. Right? All right, let's see what else. Big CC Banana. The way Big D is acting, Ozza may take X. I know. That's something. He's got it. A Big D cakewalk into the final two. And yeah, it's one thing to get this far just by not doing a whole lot, and maybe he'll claim it's a social game, but in reality, Big D hadn't done a whole lot to get to final three. But to go from final three to final two, and you still don't do anything, it just blows me away. It's amazing. But yes, all he has to do is stay quiet, and I think Big D has a guaranteed final two, sitting in the chairs at the very end. I don't think there's any way he wins, but he gets second place, which isn't bad. But yeah, he's just going to keep talking until he alienates the other two, and next thing he knows, he's going to screw up. We already heard talk about Ozza saying, maybe I should just make a deal with Xavier, and maybe just we agree that whoever wins, we take each other. I don't think she's going to do it yet, but if he keeps on talking, it could change, right? All right, Markeitha Nard. Sounds like she has her mind made up. Why would she speak so freely? Well, that's the other part, too. I've always thought in this show, when people really start speaking freely and honestly to someone else, that shows the greatest level either of confidence or of trust. In Ozza's position, I think it's when she says it in front of Xavier, I think it's because she in her head has already made up her mind. But things change, right? During the season, if I'm talking to Nicole and I'm right up front and honest with her, then as a viewer, you ought to think, all right, that's who Cliff's trusting more than anyone else, and vice versa. It's when you're kind of him-hawing around with people then you got to start thinking the alliance may not be quite as serious or as confident as you thought. So maybe that is it. Maybe that's why she's so confident. But she still has to be planning just in case Xavier wins the final thing and he's the one that makes the selection, right? So she can have her mind made up. Doesn't mean he's got his mind made up, and it doesn't mean that your mind doesn't change as well. So let's see what else. All right, Bugs Mini. I saw one saying the jury wants a woman to win. If Ozza makes it, she wins. Perhaps. If Ozza and Xavier get to the final two, I think that'd be a little bit more interesting. Yeah, there are more women on the jury. Who do we have? Kyland and Derek X, and then. If Oz is still up there, it means a third guy, so we'd have 6 women, 3 men. So there's definitely a balance, gender balance towards the women. But I really like this cast, and I think for the most part, you're not going to see a bitter jury. Now, you may have a jury that has some interest in if all things are equal, we'd rather have the woman win than the guy. Yeah, there's always some of that going on, but Xavier's played such a game. I really think if it's him and Ozza, a part of it depends. If Xavier wins the very last round and he takes Ozza, I think he gets it. If Ozza wins and she drags Xavier along, which I don't expect to see, but if she does, then she's got a pretty strong argument at the end saying, the only reason he's here is because I chose to bring him here, right? So maybe that helps her case a little bit. Maybe that gives some people some justification for voting for her if they truly want a female to win over a male. Well, now they got a built-in reason why maybe they should do that. So maybe that's part of it. We'll see. All right, Birdman. Who is your all-time favorite player? Man, there's so many to pick from, Birdman. How do you pick your favorite player on that? I've got a few. I like Vanessa Russo. I've liked Ian. I know I'm missing people. I mean, it's easy to say. I think when I applied, I said Derek and Dan Giesling. Well, everyone says them, right? I mean, they were great players, but I like the people who are so logical, so analytical, and came in really underestimated. Ian has got to be one of those, right? So there's so many out there. There's so many different players. I like different parts of their game. So one person I maybe really liked that they were such comp beasts. Someone else that they were so analytical. The way they played the game. I know when I was trying out, I told a lot of producers that Vanessa maybe was one of, she was probably my favorite person, my favorite player that didn't end up winning the game, right? I thought she played a great game, just didn't quite happen at the very end. So maybe Vanessa, I don't know. All right, Chad saying, do you think they'll do backyard interviews this year? I don't know. I was thinking about that earlier. I was trying to remember if they did them last year, and they didn't, did they? I don't think they did. With COVID and stuff still going on, I kind of doubt it. I have a feeling I'd like to see something happen afterwards. It'd be great if they, I don't know, maybe keep them more segregated. Because here's the thing. When I did my backyard interviews, I was led into the backyard, and there's just stations. There are probably 15 different groups in that backyard all trying to interview. So they're all kind of squeezed in together. I had a blast. I interviewed with Rob has a podcast. Rachel Riley, Rachel Swindler interviewed me. Entertainment Weekly, Ika Wong. I got to talk to so many people. That was a lot of fun. JC interviewed me as well. So I had a blast doing it, but you would just go from one spot to the other, and everyone's very close to each other. I could maybe see some kind of interviews, but maybe fewer and spaced out more. I don't know. I hope so. I'd love to hear the thoughts on some of these players. If not, though, we'll get it all right afterwards, and so either way, we'll hear their thoughts eventually. All right, Donna and Porter Gage, floater all the way to the money. Yeah, kind of. But here's the thing, and I've said this before. When I think of a floater, I think of a person who is intentionally going back and forth between the power teams to survive. They're intentionally sitting back and manipulating and playing along to the other side as a strategy, right? But I almost feel like Ozza and Big D didn't even do that. They didn't turn around and say, oh, yeah, I'm going to go with you because these people have, y'all got the power, and then next week I'm going to go with the other people because they have power. No, they haven't done that. I don't think they're floaters. I think they're coasters. They haven't done anything. They're like the soapbox derby. They're sitting at the top of the hill. They don't have any powers, no pedals or anything else. They just sit there, and as long as they do just the tiniest bit of steering as they go down the hill. They get to the bottom, and there you are. And that's where we're at. We're at the bottom of the hill, and they haven't done a whole lot, but yet here they are. So there you go. All right, Maria M. I think any members of the jury will use their questions to take away Derek's "I created the cookout" claim. All right, now let's talk about that, because I don't know if everyone knows how those questions are generated, and I'll give you a little inside scoop. So we have a jury roundtable. At least during my season, we had a jury roundtable. After we get done, and I haven't seen any of the other jurors up until that point. It's a complete surprise. So we have the jury roundtable. After we get done, we're tasked with coming up with questions that we want to ask. All right, and we don't do it alone. There's producers in there and everyone. They aren't giving us questions. It's created by us. So anyone who says, it's all scripted, no, it doesn't happen. We came up with the questions, but kind of the way it worked for us is that there's 9 jurors, 8 jurors plus, in my case, Nicole, who wasn't there yet, but 8 of us. And I feel like they said, all right, why don't y'all try to split up questions, 3 questions per each. Someone will have 2, and we'll just, we'll work around it. But basically, each of y'all throw out maybe what you think you would like to have ask a question and who you would ask it to. And then let's see what the rest of the jurors think. So during mine, I immediately said, hey, I want to ask Mickey about his social management with regard to goodbye messages, because he gave me such a nasty one. And everyone immediately said, oh, did he give you a bad message? I said, hell yeah, he gave me a really rotten message. And so everyone said, oh yeah, ask Mickey, grill Mickey on that. So my question was pretty quick. And then you start crying, you kind of come up with the wording, and everyone says, yeah, we like that. And so, yeah, I think it'll work the same way this year. All the jurors will get together, and I can see someone like Tiffany saying, yeah, I want to ask a question. And so what happens is, if your person, for example, me, I was going to ask a question to Mickey. So if he made it to the final 2, then I get to ask a question. If it turned out to be Nicole and Holly, then I wouldn't have asked my question. I would have been one of the silent jurors, I suppose. So I can see Tiffany saying, yeah, I want to ask Big D a question. I want to ask him about who named the Cookout Alliance or something like that. Maybe. But on the other hand, do you wait? I don't know. I was going to say, do you waste your question on that? But actually, that's a valid question. I could kind of trip Big D up. But you got to be careful when you ask those questions, because if Tiffany just says, are you claiming that you created the Cookout Alliance thing? Big D may just say, yeah, I did. And I brought it up to you and you said, fine. Well, now how do you know one way or the other? So sometimes you have to phrase your questions to create a little bit more conversation. Like, Big D, you claim that you created the name. Do you remember when? And do you remember a conversation with me? And so she could maybe stretch that a little bit more. But yeah, I'm curious, because some people really are asking the questions to try to find out who deserves to win. But there are certainly other people, even if they aren't going to be bitter jurors, they still want to kind of get a last little dig in. What do you think Kylan's question is going to be? You think he's going to ask Xavier something, or is he going to ask Big D a question? Either way, I'm waiting for Kylan's question. I think it's going to be great. All right, Julia Shepard. What are backyard interviews? All right, sorry, Julia. I forget that don't always remember not everyone's watched forever and ever. Backyard interviews, typically after the season is over, after they've awarded the money, all the house guests then get to go in the backyard and get interviewed by a lot of different media sources. And it's just a quick little question. Entertainment Weekly says, all right, Cliff, what do you think your biggest regret was in the house? Or how did you think so-and-so was going to do when you first walked in? Just questions that you see. Parade Magazine's back there, and different podcasts that did stuff throughout the year. And they just ask whatever questions. I don't know if they have to clear the questions through CBS first. I would guess so, but I don't even know that for certain. But they just get to ask questions, and it's just a quick interview, and you maybe spend 5 minutes per site, and then you move on to the next one. So it's an hour or so where you're just talking, and they call it backyard interviews because they do it in the backyard. You still see the setup for the final HOH competition and everything else back there. And it's kind of cool because really it's the first chance to interact with people that aren't part of the house. Right now, during finale night, you're up there on stage and you see other people, but you aren't getting to talk to them or everything. That's really the first chance that you start hearing other people asking you questions, and you start getting a feel for, did they portray me as a villain? Do people like me? Do people think I'm the most goofy guy in the whole history of Big Brother? Do they think I'm a bonehead? Do they think I'm a strategist? Just based on the questions that start coming in, you start hearing, you start getting some ideas about maybe how people received you during the season. So it's kind of important to the house guests. It's their first brush with what's going to be good or bad in social media and everywhere else for the next few months. So it's always, that's what makes it exciting doing those backyard interviews. All right, what else do we have on here? Ma saying Dr. Will's a floater, Big D is a coaster. Yeah, I got that. All right, sorry, let me go back to this comment. I saw one on here. And, let's see. Jelly Crossing, Big Bill, 12's first season. I saw Ma saying. All right, Chaz, does the house feel bigger or smaller compared to how it looks on TV? Oh, that's a good question, Chaz. It's definitely different. I remember walking in that first night, the first day, and seeing the house, and it just, everything didn't seem like it was where it needed to be. It's all kind of twisted around when you're not watching from the same cameras that we see every year. I'll say this. When I first started, the house seemed a lot bigger. But after a week or two of being stuck inside there, suddenly it seemed like it was a very, very small house. And then at the end, when there are only 3 or 4 of us in there, it started feeling pretty big again because you had a room to yourself and everything else. No, it seemed decently big. I mean, you'd walk from that back bedroom to the bathroom, and it was a decent walk and everything. So no, I never felt closed in from a pure square footage type thing. It was okay. It's just when you have 16 other people or 15 other people in there, you kind of get squeezed just because there's so much going on. All right, TV Talks with Tom. Hey, Tom, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well, my friend. I'm so glad you're here. Hey, Clay, I wonder what it will be like meeting Dr. Will at the jury roundtable. That was weird because I knew I was going to meet him, but I was kind of the surprise person when I walked out onto the into the area and everyone, oh, Cliff, you're the 4th place and all that. Yeah. And Dr. Will was interesting because I'd never met him before. I was excited to do it. He grilled me a little bit, about some of my decisions. So I'm like, well, fair enough. That's what he does. Yeah, he doesn't mess around. He kind of cuts to the bone when he's asking his questions and such. And I don't know. I'm really curious to see how he's going to handle some of this. How much he's going to want to talk about the Cookout Alliance and the objective, the mission, and all of that. And how much he's going to talk about that as opposed to straight up strategy. I have a feeling he's going to talk a little bit more strategy, but he's got to be careful. During my season, we spent, Dr. Will's the moderator. So he said, all right, let's talk about why we think Mickey's going to win. Let's talk about why we think Holly's going to win. Let's talk about why we think Nicole's going to win. And we all had our reasons. And when Nicole came along, I'm quick to try to do what I can to sway the jury to her and all that. And so we're all trying to get our points in and everything else. And we all have our favorites. If he does it this season, I just wonder if he's going to say, okay, why does Big D deserve to win Big Brother this season? And you just may hear crickets. You may hear Brittany saying, I know, and she'll throw something else out, and then Dr. will say, anyone else? And you won't hear a word. It's like, all right, well, that was 2 minutes well spent. Let's talk about why the others deserve something. I don't know. He's going to have to be very prepared. He's going to have to come up with some talking points of his own to kind of counter what I think is going to be some overwhelming support for Xavier. And I could be completely wrong. I may just be misreading this jury. But I could see Dr. Will back there saying, let's talk about Big D's social game. He didn't win anything, but obviously he's still there. So tell me about that. So, yeah, I'm curious to see how Dr. Will handles it. I wish I'd spent more time with Dr. Will. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see him before the roundtable started since I was a surprise person and all that. And then by the time it got done, everyone was in a hurry to try to get everything taken care of that evening. It was late at night. And so he was already gone. I just never got a chance to say hello. But somewhere down the road, I'd like to do that. Here's another kicker for y'all. Just a little inside scoop, if I will, about Jury Roundtable. Where we filmed the roundtable, there's a lot of planes that fly overhead. And we filmed our roundtable outside. And it took forever. Because someone would ask a question or someone would start making a comment. And all of a sudden, you'd hear a plane flying overhead. And we just had to stop and be quiet for a little while until the plane was gone. And then you'd repeat it. And so it took a little bit longer. And then editing came along and got rid of the questions where you couldn't hear because of the airplanes. But I just remember thinking, oh, my God, I don't want to be here. I just got booted. I just want to say hello to all my friends and grab something to eat and then go back. But it took forever. All right, what else? Crystal Gonzalez. What celebrities would you like to see on Celebrity Big Brother? Gosh, I don't know. I mean, there's some people that are such big fans. Neil Patrick Harris is one of them. How cool would it be to get him on there? There's a couple of I never can keep them straight. The Backstreet Boys, the NSYNC guys. Yeah, there's some of them that are big fans as well. Is it Rihanna? She would never do it. She's too big a celebrity to do something like that. But how cool would it be if you got, usually get a few musicians in there. And I don't know. I'm trying to think people who aren't, it's not like you're going to get Lady Gaga in the house, Celebrity Big Brother house, right? It's someone that maybe is kind of done their things and then they got done. Was it Sugarfly? What was it? I can't think who was on it. Mark McGregor? I don't know. My current events are a little suffering. I don't know. I'd like to see a few musicians in there. You always get that. You get a few athletes. All right, I got one for you. I got one. Here's a perfect person. Oh, this would be so. I just thought of it. No pre-planning. How about Johnny Manziel from Texas A&M University? Only freshman ever win the Heisman Trophy. Superstar in college. Then he goes off, plays for Cleveland. He didn't do anything. His kind of career fell apart. I'd love to see Manziel in the house. I did a little bit of this while I was in the house while I won my comps. Now Johnny Manziel could come in and play and do the same thing. Personal preference, Johnny Manziel I'm throwing out there. All right, Michelle Moore. Will Kylan give Big D his ring back? I hope so. As I said earlier, I don't have any problem with him taking it. He just doesn't need to keep it. It's got sentimental value. So what would Kylan do with it other than just hold on to it to be bitter? There's no need for that. He may not give it back on finale night. He may still have a little bitter feelings and all that, but after time, I think, for the most part, I think most house guests kind of mellow with age, right? There's no one in that house. My house of 15 other people, there's not a single person in that house I wouldn't go up and give a hug to and absolutely care about what's going on with their lives and be cheering them on and all that. And I think for the most part, most house guests do that. Now, there's a few house guests that have little squabbles, especially some showmances, things like that, where you're not ever going to see that happen. But I think Kylan, he's talked so much about the respect he has for the game itself. I think that respect's going to carry over to respect for people who played the game. And I think he'll give the ring back eventually. Maybe not on finale night, but eventually Big D will get that ring back. I hope so. That'd be horrible if that wasn't the case. All right, Ed Brewer. How could Kylan bring himself to vote for Ozzy or Big D? Or Xavier. Now, he says he respects the game, so maybe he votes easier. He votes for Xavier because he says, he deserves it. If it's Big D and Ozzy, yeah, I don't know. He's going to have to. You don't vote. I don't know. I don't know if we've ever had jurors. I refuse to vote. But it never happens because you don't want to be burned by Big Brother. You don't want to be blackballed. Say, all right, well, get the heck out of here. You don't have anything to do with Big Brother from this point on if you're not even going to vote. So he's got to vote for someone. And he would. He'd do it while holding his nose. That's probably not the right word. He would vote. He would do what he had to do. But yeah, I'd be curious. I'd be curious in the backyard interview to see who asked Kylan any question about his strategies and his votings. No matter what they ask, they better be prepared for about a 30-minute interview as Kylan responds. But here's the thing. When I was in the Big Brother house, I was a little upset with Mickey that he sent me out the way he did. His goodbye message was so horrible to me. That made me mad as well. On an emotional level, there was part of me that just wanted to say, you're not getting my vote. Let's see how you feel when you lose this thing because you didn't get my vote. So I thought about it. But the reality is I had too much respect for the game. I had to vote for who I thought deserved to win, which in my case, in my season, I thought it was Mickey. So even though he kind of did me dirty, I was going to vote for who I thought deserved it. And I think Kylan will do the same thing. Kylan's gotten a lot of bad press over the past week, and a lot of it's deserved. I'm not trying to justify what he did. But I also think when he steps away from the game, when some of the stress goes away, when he gets a chance to reflect on it, he'll have some regrets, and I think he'll settle down, and I think he'll vote for who he truly thinks deserves a win. I think the ring will go back to Big D, and I think some apologies may be offered, if not in public, at least in private, to Xavier. All right, Not Enough Coffee in the World. I love that name. Are you able to post the backyard interviews, or where do you find them? I can't post them. I'm sure there's all kinds of copyright issues and everything else. The only way you can find them is just as soon as the season's over, do a search search YouTube, search Google, do all the typical search engines, and look for Big Brother backyard interviews, and you'll find a lot of them. I know, for example, if you go on YouTube, you can probably do backyard interviews, and you'll pull up Rob Has a Podcast. I know I've seen some of his that he's done. I've seen the ones with Ika Wong that I did for Entertainment Canada. So you can find most of them out there. And then there's like Mike Bloom with Parade does the backyard interviews. So you can find his if you go to Parade. Go to Entertainment Weekly. You'll find them out there. You just have to do a little Google searching, YouTube searching when you get done. All right, Tracy Lovell. Is there really one bathroom to use, and who cleans it? Yes. Well, there's two when the HOH room is open, but the rest of the time, one bathroom. There are no secret rooms that y'all just aren't seeing. There's no lounge room that we go hang out in when the filming's over. Nah, there's nothing like that. It's exactly like you see on the show, Tracy. Yes, one bathroom downstairs, and that's it, except for the HOH. And who cleans it? Whoever's willing to clean it. It has to be one of us. Production never comes in and cleans that thing. And so what you don't always see, because they don't like showing that bathroom. And I don't know why. When I was HOH, I took my little Snapchat goggles, and I went in and filmed the bathroom, and I filmed the ceilings, all the things that we don't normally see as viewers. But you walk in the bathroom, and on a shelf to the side is just stacks and stacks of shelves with toilet paper stacked as high as you can imagine, and some hygiene products and things like that. A little trash can off to the side, and that's it. I mean, that's it for the bathroom. People decide. There's always one or two people in a house who are more clean freaks than others that will go in and clean the bathrooms. I never did too much. I tried to really focus on washing the dishes in the kitchen. That was kind of my main task. But other people did that, and yeah, it's one bathroom. Kat Dunn was a bit of a hero for us when she first came into the house, because she brought an entire box, not just one bottle, an entire box of Poo-Pourri. And she kept it there in the bathroom until it eventually ran out about halfway through the season. So hey, we all said, hey, great idea. If you're a future house guest on Big Brother, consider it, because you'll be your favorite house guest of everyone else for a while if you do something like that. All right, Birdman, what happens when you run out of something in the house? It depends on what it is. For the most part, you're just done. Let's talk about Big D. He's a smoker. We don't even know he's a smoker, right? Because they didn't show him that much smoking, and because the cigarettes ran out, I think, week number 3, early in the season. If you're a smoker, you can bring in as many cigarettes as you want, but once you run out, that's it, and you're done. There's other things like toothpaste, razors, deodorants, toothbrushes, all that kind of stuff. In a storage room, it's mainly food, but we do have shelves that have nothing but medicine, Tylenol, aspirin, things like that, but also one that has nothing but soap, shampoos, toothbrushes, etc. So if you run out of something like that, you go get that. Now the thing is, you have to take whatever they buy at the local grocery store. You don't get to say, hey, could you go get such and such deodorant? That's my favorite. Now you get stuck with Arm & Hammer or whatever they had. I think that's what it was. So if you run out, things like that will be provided for you. As far as food goes, if you run out of food, most of the time you just have to wait till usually Thursday night, Friday morning when the storage room is restocked to get more food. Now, some things like milk, occasionally you could go and say, no, we ran out of milk. Could you really bring me some more milk? And sometimes they do it. But other things like eggs, if we ran out of eggs, that was just it. You had to wait until the storage room got restocked, and that was all there was to it. All right, Megan Petty, do you think Xavier will forgive Kylan and continue to be friends outside the house, or will they only be castmates? There's so much stress that takes place in that house. And I think for a lot of people, when you get out of there, you just see two different people. And that's what a lot of people maybe don't understand until they've been in that house. Because I know in our season, there's a lot of people who have questioned me, how could you be friends, or at least how could you be talking to some of these people who did you dirty in there, or y'all didn't get along, and now suddenly it seems like y'all don't have any problems? It's because when you get out of there, you truly see people differently. Tommy, in the house. In the house, I saw Tommy the competitor. Tommy the guy who was always gunning for me. I was always worried about it. I was trying to work with him, but I always knew that Tommy and Christy were coming for me in that house, and they always had me nervous. Well, when I got out of the house, I didn't see Tommy the competitor. I saw Tommy the the son, the brother. I see him interacting with his family. I see him interacting with me, not in a competition standpoint, but just in a, hey, we're two people who had a very shared experience. And suddenly, the fact that you shared an experience together almost overwhelms any hard feeling that you have while you're in the house. And so for me, it became very easy to become friends with everyone else who wanted to become friends with me. Again, there's always a few people that aren't quite as willing to move on and let bygones be bygones. But in Xavier's case, I think so, especially if Xavier wins $750,000. You're walking out $750,000. Suddenly, I feel like I would personally be in a much more forgiving mood for everyone that did anything in the house, because when I shake hands with them, I'll walk away and say, I won and you didn't. So there's the greatest dig or victory of all. So I don't know that they're going to go hang out at the beach and go on vacations together with their families and everything somewhere down the road. But I think they'll be hospitable to each other, right? I think they'll get along okay. They'll understand. I think so. A lot of it depends on what Kylan's attitude is going to be back to Xavier. If when they get out, Kylan says, yeah, sorry about that. It's kind of just, high temper's not. I think Xavier say, yeah, we're good, man. If that doesn't happen, well, we'll see. All right, Birdman, where does the trash go when it gets full? I don't know. I kind of know that. When the trash gets full, we typically pull it out of the big container. Sometimes I feel like maybe we didn't. But throughout the week, occasionally that storage room will be locked, just for whatever reason. And every once in a while when it's locked, we go back in there and the trash has just magically disappeared. So I guess they've got some recycling bins and trash compactors or something somewhere else on that sound stage or the back lot. And they haul it off. It just disappears with the trash ferries. We just had to make sure it got into the storage room. Until it goes in the storage room, it's ours to deal with. Once we get in the storage room, it just magically disappears every once in a while. All right, let's see. What else? Oh, my gosh. We're getting closer and closer to the end, guys. We got a little bit of time left, though. Let's see what's going on here. All right, Tracy Love, are you allowed only one suitcase? Yes, you are. Not only that, Tracy, you're allowed one suitcase, and there are dimensions about this suitcase that you have to. Can't be bigger than this. It can't be like a big old steamer trunk or something. It's got to be a certain size or smaller in the house. Now, I say one suitcase. I guess it's kind of two suitcases. You've got your suitcase with all of your clothing. And then you've got your big brother bag, which is what you carry into the house, what you walk out of the house with. So I guess that kind of counts as 1.5 or so. But that one is used to carry in the clothes that you may not, because when we carry in suitcases or we have suitcases, we didn't get that until day 2 or 3 in the house. So you have to have a few clothing choices in the small big brother bag. Then eventually our suitcases would show up. So yeah, one big suitcase, but then a little extra here and there. I had mine packed so tight. In fact, I kind of ripped the seams because I had so much stuff tried to pack in there. I had to pay a fortune. I paid like $70 extra just for overweight fees on the airplane trying to fly out there because I had so much stuff. Because how do you decide what you're going to need for the next 3.5 months? I don't know how the ladies did it. Yeah, it's not like I've got a lot of makeup and things like that I have to deal with. I don't know how they handled it, but apparently they did pretty good job of it. Although I got to say, a few of the ladies had some pretty big suitcases. All right, let's see. Kylan was on Price is Right. Josh is saying. I saw that, Josh. I just saw a little clip of it today. He didn't win, but he was on there, so that's kind of cool. All right, Lawrence Santiago. Does Ozza have any chance to win? Yeah, I think she does. And again, I hope y'all are okay with spoilers, but yeah, I think she does. She has to beat Xavier in this final competition on Wednesday. If she does, I think she has to take Big D with her. And at that point, 6 women voting, 3 men voting. Big D hasn't done anything. Well, he hasn't done enough to really make him an overwhelming choice. Anyone could vote for Ozza and be perfectly justifiable in doing so. And as a result, I think she could do it. I really do. But she has to win the competition on Wednesday first. And if she does it and she beats Big D, well then I'm not going to rank her as the top Big Brother strategic player that's ever played the game. She'll probably be a little lower on my list. But hey, if you make it to the end, you win the competition that you need to win, and you get the votes to win the money, Well, then props to you. She's done what she had to do, and the beauty about Big Brother is every season's different, and the biggest and most important thing is you have to be adaptable to whatever the situation is when you get in the house. And Ozzy, even Big D and Xavier have shown a certain amount of adaptability. Big D realized quick, and Ozzy kind of said as well, they both knew they weren't going to be comp beasts once they got in the house. Well, once that happens, you got to figure out some other way to survive, and they've done it. Well, we make fun of them, and deservedly so sometimes, but at the end, they're still there, and there's going to be 14 other people who aren't, so they deserve it. All right, Karen Venture, are you guys watching a prompter when narrating the comps? No, no, there's never a prompt or anything else. Now, every once in a while, there'll be like a little earpiece that someone gets to listen to if it's something really complicated. Sometimes, like I remember BB Comics, I feel like there was a little sheet of paper that we read with some of the rules that we would read out. And so it wasn't a teleprompter, but we had a little thing that helped us understand all the rules, and they recorded that. And then every once in a while, when competitions are over, we then go back into the diary room, and we do some things. Y'all seen it, where I walk into the backyard, and what do I see? It's a big old swimming pool with a jet ski in the middle. And so you kind of go through that. It's not prompters there either, but they want you to describe what's happening, or one of these. So the rules of this competition is, as quickly as possible, I have to take all my clothes off while pushing these 3 buttons. And on those, sometimes Big Brother would help you in the diary rooms of saying, make sure you say 3 buttons because we want to make sure people understand it. So you would kind of get guided along on exactly what to say, but that's the only time that we had anything that was the least bit scripted. It was just for the clarity of the viewer itself. All right, Julia Shepard, do you think they tailor what the competition is going to be depending on who would be interesting to win? I've thought about that before, but I really don't think so. I think at the end of the day, we're watching a TV show, right? And we're watching people that are shocked and surprised, and certainly not TV actors or anything else, but it's still a TV program. And after I got done, I saw how many people were involved in the production of this show. Not just the people filming and the producers, but the people building the sets and the supplies and the carpenters and the tailors, the seamstresses. I just think it would be too hard to get too many people coming in too quickly to try to change competitions up at the last minute. I think everything is completely planned out from the beginning. Now, does that mean that in week 2, they may say, this twist isn't working quite as well as we wanted, so let's shift it up in week 7 or 8. I could maybe see some of that happening, but I don't think they say, oh my gosh, so-and-so's potentially going to get evicted this week. Let's make sure it makes it a little more interesting by changing up the competition. I think it's too hard to do that because it's too many people involved. So I think it's all mapped out and sketched out ahead of time. They just don't. I don't think they do that. I truly don't. All right, Jelly Crossing. Would I be able to bring in my security blanket? That's an interesting question. Probably, I'm going to say, as long as it was just is it an article of clothing? No, not really. But I think as long as it's something that adds to a story, they'd probably allow it. Yeah, I brought in my cowboy hat. They let me do that. And they let you bring in something as long as it's not, obviously no electronics, no pictures, no writing, anything like that. But as long as it's cloth material or something, as long as there's not a crowbar hidden inside to beat people over the head if they aren't doing what you want to do, yeah, I think they'd probably let you bring in security blankets. So, hey, more power to you. Don't let that stand in the way of trying out for Big Brother and make it on the show, Jelly Crossing. All right, one last question. Sometimes that you have to go out the front door to go and compete in any competition. Birdman's asking. No, Birdman. That door that we walk in and then we walk back out of, never walked through that door except the day we walked in and the day we walked out. That's it. Not a single other time. Now, I came close when I did the dark woods when I was banished. I didn't come in through that door. I came in through the little squirrel door that was right next to it. But no, we never. That door was off limits. I think we were told at one point, if you open that door up, you better just keep on going because you're evicted at that point or you're booted from the house. That door is not to be opened or touched. It could be locked for all I know, and I would never know because I wasn't going to touch it. I treat it like an electric fence. Stay away from that door. I didn't ever want to be going out the door. So no, we never walked out that door. Now, occasionally, there were one or two competitions that didn't take place in the backyard, and we were let out, but not through that door. We were blindfolded and let out, so we didn't see anything except what we were supposed to see inside the house. Always, ever. We never saw anything outside, and we never walked through that front door. All right, it's Peach, bro. Will Tiffany call out Big D when he claims to have come up with the cookout strategy? Yeah, we talked about that a second ago. I don't know if she'll call him out, because you're really not supposed to talk while they're doing their things. They're probably going to be cautioned about you. Don't be speaking up. Let them have their say. So, no, I don't think Tiffany will call him out. But I could see Tiffany rolling her eyes a little bit. I could see her doing one of these things as well. So I think she may let it be known if he tries to make that claim. She'll non-verbally let it be known that she maybe isn't really agreeing with some of the comments that he's saying. I could see that. It's going to be fun watching this finale and watching the reactions. And so, this is one of the few seasons I'm almost more excited to see the jurors' faces this season than whoever the final two are that are sitting up on those final two chairs. I want to see the jurors and how they respond to any questions and answers that get thrown out there, because that's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be so much fun. All right. Wow. 7:58 already. Guys, if I'm missing your comments, I apologize for that. I tried. It's hard. I knew we'd be talking a lot of Big Brother. And here's the thing. Big Brother's going to be over on Wednesday. But come next Monday, I'm happy to answer more. We'll talk about the whole season. We'll wrap up. I'll answer any questions I missed today. We'll do all of that. And Mark Taylor saying, will you miss Monday night? Will you miss us on Monday nights? Well, no, I'm not going to miss you, because I'm still going to be here, and I hope you are too as well, Mark. Just because we aren't talking Big Brother, we're still going to be talking other reality shows. I'll talk about movies, binge watching, barbecues, whatever else we want to talk about. So I'm not going anywhere, and I hope you aren't either, Mark. And here's the other thing. Did you mention, survival recaps? I'm going to be doing Survivor recaps. I did a preview of the cast. I did episode 1. I dropped that was it Thursday? I'm going to keep doing that, so y'all find out. Subscribe if you haven't already done it. Go out and subscribe to the show, and that way you get all the notifications. So again, subscriber, whatever other reality shows you come up with. I may go find some other foreign country's reality show that no one has ever even seen before, and then maybe I'll cover that just for the fun of it. But anyway, guys, now subscribe so you get the notifications, because I'm not going anywhere, and I hope y'all aren't either, because I have too much fun on these Monday evenings. All right, guys, y'all have a fantastic Monday, the last week of September. We got October coming up, which means fall weather, football, more football, and everything else. Hug your loved ones, your friends, your family, and I'll finish it up with an SKD 143. I love my wife, I love my kids, and I love all of y'all out here. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it so much. Y'all have a great week. Cheers, my friends. Bye. See y'all later.